So the first example we're going to look at is 1/2. Here I've got my half of my bar, so I'm going to colour that in black. And I'm going to divide that by 3. So I'm going to divide it into 3 equal pieces. Here's my half. I can cut that half into 3 pieces, and because I'm cutting both halves into pieces, then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal shapes. So 1/2 divided by 3 equals 1/6. We can show that mathematically by looking at 1/2 divided by 3 equals 1/2 times by 3, which equals 1/6. So when you're doing this, you leave the numerator, you multiply the denominator by the divisor, and then you have a new common denominator. That's the first step. So the next step, in this case I haven't got a unit fraction because I've got 2/5. So I'm going to colour those 2/5 in. Here's 1, here's 2, and those other 3/5, 2, 3 there, I can ignore those completely. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each of those 2/5, first this one, and I'm going to divide it into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, colour in one of those. Now I've got my second one, cut it into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and the pieces that I've got, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of 5, each one of those is 1/20th of the whole shape. And there's 2 of them, 2/20ths, which cancels down to 1/10. Now there's 2 ways that I can do that. The first way is 2/5 divided by 4 equals 2/4 times by 5, which is the same as 2/20, and then I can cancel that down because if I divide the 2 by 2, they're both divisible by 2, divide by 2, I get 1, divide that number by 2, I get 10. So my answer is 1/10. Now my second way of doing it is only slightly different. I'm going to write it out again, 2/5, and I'm going to divide by 4. And then I'm going to write out the same again, 2/4 times by 5. And this is where this method is ever so slightly different, because what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to look at the numerator and one of these 2 numbers, and I'm going to work out which one has a common factor. In this case, that's divisible by 2 and that's divisible by 2. So I can cancel those 2. So divide that by 2, I get 1. Divide that by 2, I get 2. And now, instead of having 2 as my numerator, I've got 1 as my numerator, 1/, and then instead of 4 times by 5, because I've cancelled the top and that number on the bottom, I've got 2 times 5, which is 10, and I've got the same answer. Different people prefer different methods. Some people can see this one more easily. Some people can see this one more easily because you're cancelling a simpler number here than the bigger number that you may end up cancelling here. But either way work.